is so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, oh, just to rest upon his promise, oh, just to know the save the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him. Oh, how I prove him more and more. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, he's my precious Jesus. Oh, for grace to trust him more. Brothers and sisters out there who are hurting, who are crying, we see you and we're praying for you. Eric Gardner, Alton Sterling, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, this is for you. Oh, we won't forget you. Your lives, they gave us hope. Your body's cold. We'll keep on fighting. This passion won't grow old, no. And you'll live forever inside our very souls. Oh, we won't forget you. Your lives, they gave us hope. Oh, and we will remember how your body's cold. Oh, this passion won't grow, oh no, and you'll live forever inside our very soul. Oh, this is for you. This song is for you. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you. Oh, how I prove him more and more. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, he's my precious Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, he's my precious Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, he's my precious Jesus. Oh, for grace to trust him more.
All right. What's going on, y'all? My name is Dexter Thomas. I'm a correspondent for Vice News, and we're back once again with Receiver. And I mean, I feel like I say it's the top every time, and it becomes more and more true every time. But we are living through, shall we say, some strange and interesting times. And the entire point of this series is really checking in, speaking with musicians, and people who aren't able to travel, people who aren't able to practice their art and perform their art and share that art with the rest of the world in the way that they want to, and see how things are going on their end. And this time is a little bit different. Obviously, we just heard from some some very talented musicians, but the conversation we'll be having today is different because what we just heard from was Resurrection Houston. And I'm going to be speaking with Pastor P.T. Ngwolo, who is the pastor of the church that George Floyd attended. We'll also be taking questions on Facebook and YouTube, so feel free to jump in and join the chat. But right now, appreciate you joining us, man.
Man, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity, and we'd love to share whatever we can with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, talk to me about the song. So Y'all couldn't see us. We were both having the same reaction. Everybody at home couldn't see us, but you and I were having the same exact reaction as we were hearing the drum fills and just the band going at it. So tell me
Yeah.
about now is it does the group have a name? Actually, I wanted to know that.
Man, there is no name. Man, we're just loosely confederated friends who love this type of music, like
Mm,
not gospel, but not gospel-y. Glaspery, if I could put a name to it, man. We love that kind of that, you know, it's like neo Pentecostal, but not really churchy. I
okay.
don't know how to put it, but it's eclectic. So that song is, man, it's an old hymn, but
Mm,
we love putting old hymns to new music.
yeah, no, I heard the changes, man. I heard the changes. But tell me about that song in particular because you wanted to open up with that one. Why that one?
I think, man, you and I probably have heard the same conversations, feel the same way. People, hashtag after hashtag after hashtag, are just tired. At least
Mm,
people in my community, tired, man. Like I can't even get people to think about what's the next action because they're so angry and so much in despair, man. And so pick this song because, man, just to remind us that we have an advocate on our side. We have somebody who loves us, and man, just the sweetness of being able to trust him will push us to continue this fight.
mm, mm. So I mean, a big reason why I wanted to chat with you is, and once again, if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, definitely welcome you to throw in some questions. Whatever you'd like to ask. We'll try to get to it. So you personally knew George Floyd. How did you two
Yeah.
meet?
So, man, I was a student pastor in the neighborhood, Third Ward Trade. That's what they call it. And Big Floyd is known in Third Ward. Uh, by reputation, man, his basketball prowess, man, he's got that rep. And so, I was a student pastor at the time, trying to break into the neighborhood they call CUNY Homes. And man, I don't live in the CUNY Homes. It's the largest housing project in the Southwest. I don't live there, I've never lived there. And you understand, man, when you're trying to do anything, just hang out, shoot a video, let alone do ministry, you need to know some people who are in the neighborhood, else your life might be at stake. So we were trying to break in, do ministry in that neighborhood. Big Floyd, was a person of peace, someone who saw what we were trying to do. And man, he opened some doorways to allow us to do real impactful ministry in the CUNY Homes project.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about before. I spent very little, not nearly as much time as you have, obviously, but I got to spend a little bit of time, right by the CUNY homes, right in them, and right where the memorial is in the Third Ward. So, tell me a little bit because you know more about it than I do, right? What has been your experience? What is the Third Ward like in Houston?
Man, so the Third Ward itself, the larger Third Ward, we could say the northern part of Third Ward, they call it the bottoms, socioeconomically. Traditionally, it's been poor, and then the southern part of Third Ward, which people have heard about because of Beyonce, it's a little well-to-do. It's been that way. It originally was a Jewish neighborhood because they couldn't get into the neighborhood River Oaks, and so they built their own enclave. They called it Riverside Terrace, which was literally in Third Ward. Then in the 60s and 70s, blacks moved in, Jewish families moved out, moved to Braeswood. That area then became the hub of black life in Houston, both,
Mm,
from poverty and just riches. And it's still the same way today. The northern part of Third Ward is where Big Floyd was from. It
mm,
was called the Bottoms. CUNY Homes is right there. So when you think about it, it's interesting. You have an interesting mix of, you got a university here, you got to the south, you got, man, just these $1 million homes, and then to the left, man, you've got the biggest housing project in the Southwest. Just an eclectic mix of people who live in the Trey.
Yeah, man.
And
Yo,
then now you
when
got gentrifications.
I was gonna say that, man. I got friends who live right around there, and I was talking about them. We were leaving. You know, you see these massive houses, and we just whoa, whoa, whoa. I was, I just drove from the bricks. What's happening?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's everywhere. But specifically with you were saying that I've seen you called George Floyd kind of like a gatekeeper. Tell me
yeah.
about that. I'm curious about that.
So, man, using biblical language, Luke 10, they call them men of peace, sons of peace, people who are gatekeepers to a village. In any village, any situation, any housing project, any neighborhood, there are people who are, OGs, not OGs like original gangster, anything like that, but like elders, people who are
Mm,
loved and respected in the neighborhood, people who are admired, people like, so for instance, I could knock on 50 doors in the cutie homes. 50 people may or may not come out. When Big Floyd comes out, 100 people come out. And so the type of influence he had, for him to be able to open it up to us and say, hey guys, they're not the police. They're not trying to stop anything that's going on. They're advocates, they're here, they're trying to help. Man, that went a
mm.
long way in us being able to do um, ministry in that neighborhood. And I'll share this with you. So we would do church every fifth Sunday. We do it on the basketball court in the middle of the CUNY Homes project. And so in order to do,
I'm sorry, time out, time out. You did
yeah,
church on the basketball courts?
yeah, Church of the Bricks, that's what we called it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
And so,
my bad.
man, go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, so
No, no.
yeah, so then yeah, so every fifth Sunday we'd have to do that, and you know how it is to get anything set up, man. It takes hours of manpower, pulling out chairs, pulling out tables, uh, bringing out. In particular, we had to bring out a baptismal pool, and man, he would help us do all of that. I remember quite vividly people we would baptize on the basketball court, and him helping us to move that equipment. Man, it was crazy. I didn't move much, but man, those guys helped out a lot, and so he was really pivotal in that. Other thing that I share was there we used to do these 3-on-3 basketball tournaments to bring out the
Mhm.
neighborhood. Now, if the OGs don't come out and play, no one else is coming out to play. And so Floyd would get his team, they'd enter their team. Man, they're probably 10, 15 years older than them young cats. They'd play the tournament, win the tournament, and go home. There's a picture of him holding that Bible, and you probably see it all over the internet. That
I've
was
seen that.
after they won that tournament. And so, they're just, we were taking pictures with the winners of that basketball tournament.
Hmm. I mean, why? And this is what I gotta ask, right? And once again, having a conversation with you go by PT? Is that what I should just keep
Yeah,
calling you, Pastor
PT's
PT?
fine. That's fine,
All right.
man.
So I'm talking with no. Do I add a pastor on that, Pastor PT?
No, PT is fine, man.
All right
It's
then.
fine.
All right. Well, I'll
We're
do it once.
friends talking.
I'll do it this once.
Okay.
So I'm speaking with
Okay.
Pastor PT of Houston Resurrection, which is the church that George Floyd attended, and who knew George Floyd very well. So, and once again, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to throw in, jump in the comments, ask a question. But one, I mean, the thing is, he didn't have to do that. Why was Floyd working with you so much?
Man, one of our other members said it best. Floyd basically said, man, if it's God's business, it's my business. Uh, he had lived through the wars and lived to tell about it. He wanted people to experience a different side of life. And
Hmm.
so, man, he felt like he was the gateway to helping people get there. And so, man, through his we've been able to get folk GEDs, get folk through college, man, get folk through trade school, man,
Hmm.
help out with, just life with so many people in that neighborhood. And it was because one of the reasons was because, man, he was a gateway to the people we couldn't that wouldn't trust us if we didn't have his stamp of approval.
Mm. You said he been through the wars. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so you've probably heard all the stuff that's been reported. I don't know anything about that, but one of the things that you could see very clearly was that, man, he was on a road to redemption. That that first he was the gatekeeper, and even before then, I know he
Mm.
he he had had some encounters with God, but first he was the gatekeeper to open the door so people who needed freedom and liberation in Christ Jesus could get that. But then also, man, the very fact that he was in Minnesota, you and I know people don't leave places like the bricks to roll up to Minnesota
No.
unless it's yeah, right? I mean, heck, I wouldn't go. I mean, I like Houston just fine. Like, but
Right.
you don't go to Minnesota unless you're trying to do something drastically different from your life. And
Mm.
quite frankly, that's why he was there. He was there to get to be with a church work program, get a commercial driver's license, and then he was going to come back to Houston. We got text messages from him basically saying, hey, man, telling one of the younger homies, hey, man, good job. You're doing a good job. I'm going to be back in June. And you know the story. He didn't quite make it to June 2020. 4 days
Mm.
prior, his life was taken.
Right. I mean, I definitely want to get into that in just a bit because I know we got some more music to hear. But before we get to that, maybe we can get into that after this. Um, I mean, this is somebody who you knew, right, for years, and you've seen his life taken, and then you've seen the world really have a response to that. What has that been like for you? What has that been like for the
Man,
community?
personally, man, I'll be honest. When I first heard about it, I thought it was, man, some guy in Minnesota. I saw the video, didn't look at it too closely. I kept
Mm.
getting calls. It was my anniversary. I was like, oh, they just calling me for my anniversary. 5 o'clock, and I get a call. Hey, man, we've been calling you. Big Floyd was killed. And then I put it all together. I first felt a wave of guilt because I'm so numb to these things now that you like almost tune out, right? And I'm like, no, how could I tune out? And then
No,
I feel,
you're
go
not
ahead.
wrong though. You're not wrong though, man. Because I think, I mean, this is something we were talking about this earlier. This interview that I was doing, because I was at the memorial not long ago, and I was right by CUNY Homes, right. I was right on George Floyd's old doorstep, and we're talking about this, and it's Cal Wayne, and it's Trey the Truth, and it's Bun B, and we're talking about this. Just there's a point where you see, oh, it's another one, and it's, do I have the strength to watch this video? And you do
Yeah,
get numb. So
yeah.
I could totally see you having that reaction, man.
Yeah, and I know you're about to go to the song. I'll probably finish the second part of my answer as far as what I've seen in the community after they play the next song.
Oh yeah, well let's go to it and we'll get right to it. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
as a dedication to the life of George Floyd and Philando Castile and Breonna Taylor and Tamir Rice and Sandra Bland. There's so many names I could go on all day. And that's the sad part about this. But as a believer, one thing that's been holding me together is Romans 8:28. It says, for we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. What's going on, it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, but it will work for our good. So keep trusting, keep walking, keep believing. I want to encourage you tonight. Oh, yeah. I walk on water. I won't look down. No. You have my trust, Lord. I know you won't let me drown, 'cause you've never failed, and you never will. So I'll just keep walking. I will not fear. Say, I'll walk on water. I won't look down. No. You have my trust, Lord. You won't let me drown, 'cause you've never failed, and I know that you never will. So I'll just keep walking. I will not fear. Oh, you've never failed me. No, no, my God. You've never failed me. Lift your voice and say, you've never failed me, God. And I'm glad that you've been on my side. I have a testimony of how you've been so good. You've been consistent in every way. You've never failed me, no. You've never failed. You've never failed. You've never failed me. You've been on my side. Hey, say you've never failed. I'm grateful, Lord, I'm truly grateful. Hey, say you've never failed. Say you've never failed. You've never failed, God. You've been on my side. You've been on my side. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed beg for bread. You've never failed me. Oh, where would I be if it had not been for you? Oh, where would I be if it had not been for you, God? Help me sing it, say, where would I be if it had not been for you? Showing me grace, showing me grace. Where would I be if it had not been for you? Oh, being there on my side, God. Where would I be if it had not been for you? Showing me grace, showing me grace. Where would I be if it had not been for you? Yeah, I said, where would I be? I'm so glad that you had me on your mind. You've been so mindful of me, being there all the time. Where, if it had not been for you? Oh, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, if it had not for the Lord who was on my side, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, if it had know the Lord was on my side. You showed grace, great grace, great grace. You showed grace, great grace, great grace. Lift your voice. You showed grace, great grace, great grace. You showed grace. You showed grace, great grace, grace. Just the vocals. You showed grace. Great grace, great grace. You showed grace, God. Grace, great grace, great grace. You showed grace, great grace, great. Last time, say you showed grace. You showed grace, great grace, great grace.
Man, man, can we just have a shout out real quick? I don't know how we do this because it's digital, but something for the band, man.
Man,
They play.
hey, y'all give the band a shout out, please. Man, it. Listen, man, I'm getting chills right now listening to this, man. Uh, man, so that song, I've been getting questions about, uh, oh, what's a Christian? Look, this, that, and the third, especially with Floyd. I think people need to understand the narrative Christianity is not perfection, it's redemption. And
Mm,
man, God shows us great grace. And the difference between the saints and ain'ts is the saints open their hands to receive the grace. The ain'ts think they already have it together. And, you know, man, he comes for those who are sick, not those who are well. You don't need a doctor if you're well. You need a
mm,
doctor if you're sick. And so, man, just watching his story, his narrative, man, I think it's impacted so many people because, I think we're at an inflection point in our society, in our world. Man, and his death marked that inflection point. We're either going to master this sin of racism or the
mm,
sin of racism is going to master us.
mm. Yeah, man. Okay. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to talk, but I want to remind everybody who's watching, you're watching Receiver with Vice News. I'm Dexter, but more importantly, I'm speaking with PT, who is a pastor of the church that George Floyd attended, and more importantly, a personal friend of George Floyd. And actually, like I said, there's questions. If you want to ask a question, jump in the comments. Feel free on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you're watching this. And there's one that I wanted to read. That we just got this one, and it kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier. This is from Evan on YouTube, and he says he wants to know: do you think Floyd's loss will leave a permanent mark on your community? If you can speak to that.
Uh, Well, yeah, I believe so. I think it leaves a permanent mark, but then I also think it was a wake up call for my community to not let his death be in vain and
Mm,
to push for change. I was preaching to people yesterday that, man, according to the Bible, the world isn't dying; it's just going through birth pains, and so we need to push.
mm. You need to give me a little bit more than that, man. You can't you can't leave me
Okay.
on that metaphor.
Yeah. Okay. Listen. So a woman, she has these contractions, right? And so when they're further apart, she's further away from the birth. But as they get closer and closer, she's feeling more and more pain. But that also means that she's closer to the birth. And so I remember these hashtags 5-6 years ago, and this is just being televised, but it seemed
Mm,
like they came once every month, right? And now
yeah.
you're seeing these hashtags. It seems every day. Mr. Brooks just was murdered yesterday in Atlanta, and so, man, sometimes we'll see these pains and go through these, and we're like, "Yo, I'm going through more now than I did before." Does that mean that the world is dying? No. What the Bible lets us know is that the world is going through birth pains, and so that those of us who are kingdom minded, those of us who are seeking justice, those of us that are seeking freedom and liberation, it's not time to sit back and only lament. It's also
Mm,
time to push that baby out so that we can see the manifestation of the kingdom of God, justice and equity and shalom. No justice, no peace.
Yeah. So how do you process all of this though in the community though? Because this is where, whatever religion you may practice, right? This is for a lot of people. This is a time when you seek solace. A lot of people in that, right? You seek solace in the community. And, I know Texas has opened up a little bit with regards to restrictions for coronavirus and whatnot. But y'all are out there in an area where you can't really be gathering as closely as
True.
people may need to right now.
True, man. You're right. One of the things that I've been telling folk, man, is before you can go, you need to grieve. Lamentations is in the Bible for a reason. So, the Psalms of Lament are in the Bible for a reason. The moderns, we call it venting. The ancients, they call it lamenting. There needs to be a process of just grief, just yelling and screaming and God, I don't know why this is happening, and man, just tears and so that uh, I remember years back my father passed, and I was trying to go back to work, and the folk at work said, hey, why don't you just take 30 days off, take those 30 days off, do what you need to do, then get back to work. And I think it's the same thing here. And what we've been trying to do is, because of COVID and all that, man, we've been trying to do it Zoom. We've tried to go to the courts outside in CUNY and lament together. Any space that we can do it, whether it's virtual or outside, that's what we've been trying to do, to give people an opportunity to lament. And I would just recommend to your viewers out there, man, listen, it's okay to tell God, I don't get it, I don't understand it.
Hmm. I mean, how has it been for you personally? Because this again, this is a friend of yours, man.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like I was saying earlier, the guilt that I felt not actually playing pressing play on the video when I saw it, and then the numbness that I felt, and I felt numb, and my wife can tell you I probably was out of it for at least a week, because while I was trying to think about what was happening personally, I was also having to do interviews and things of that nature. And so,
Mm,
man, I don't think I got to the point where I was fully able to like carry a conversation and not dwell on it till like after the funeral. And so,
wow.
I think, yeah, for me personally, I needed to lament. And man, there were times where I cuss at God, and I mean, it was just a range of things, man, just
That is not
coming
something
out
I
of my
expect.
soul.
Okay.
Oh man, listen, hey, I again, not perfection, redemption. I need Jesus like everybody else, man.
let me let me throw something at you, man, because speaking of comments, right? We got, there's people writing in once again. My name is Dexter. I'm chatting with PT right now as a pastor of the church that George Floyd attended. So feel free to throw in comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. We can try to get those in. But I do want to address something. So I don't know if you're looking at the comments and live stream like I am, but there are a lot of comments. I'm sure you've seen these when you're online, and it seems like the focal point for a lot of people is, hey, this guy George Floyd, why are people so upset about this? Right?
Yeah,
He's committed a crime. This is a bad guy. Why are people making him out to be this martyr?
yeah,
So now I got to be real with you, man. This is a question. This is a question that I normally would not ask. Not necessarily because I'm worried about hurting somebody's feelings, right, of a friend.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? But because I've had this conversation with people. You know what I mean? I've had conversation with people who knew him, but it didn't feel relevant. But I would say maybe for you, this is a question I would ask you specifically because you are a leader in the community, and also because you're a religious leader in the community. So
yeah.
I guess I would wonder how, as as a pastor, as somebody who is a leader in this community, how do you feel when you look at the comments online and you see people saying, why are we celebrating this guy who committed crimes in the past? this isn't a martyr? Why is this happening?
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest with you. Those comments, they irritate me because I think people don't understand two things: law, and they don't understand Christianity. I happen to also be a criminal defense attorney, and one of the things one of the things that gets me in this point at this is what happened to him was an extrajudicial execution. Wasn't arrested, didn't have a trial, wasn't convicted of anything. The police officer exceeded the normal use of force, and did it in a way, man, he was lynched on TV. And so for those folk who might be out here and thinking, listen, that slippery slope, if it can happen to George Floyd, they can do it to anybody, white, black, or whatever. But then I also think there's the human element to this thing. Man, if that was your brothers, your mother, your son, your sister that was literally being executed on TV, on camera for the world to see for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, they were taking the life away from your person. You wouldn't, another analogy I used to use, we scream mercy when it comes to ourselves, but we scream justice when it's for other people. We don't realize that, man, until you're in that situation, you don't understand the depths of the evil that's being done to that man. And from the religious standpoint, man, I've heard so-called Christians get at this from so many angles, and I'm like, man, and that's why we played that song. The idea that you think that as a religious person, that you're a good person and that God has chosen you because of your goodness, that's antithetical to Christianity. Folk can't come to Christ without admitting that they are evil, and that God covers us in spite of our he takes our filthy rags of shame, and he gives us clothes of righteousness. And at the cross, it's a grand leveler. When folk come to Jesus, they can't come to Jesus with their spiritual resume. And so what I don't understand sometimes is, man, do these people either believe the doctrines of Christianity, or are they, man, practicing an imperialistic, whitewashed version of Christianity that I don't subscribe to that Jesus. I think he's an idol, but that's just my piece.
Well, yo, so this is actually this is an interesting thing though for me, is because I've seen that if it feels almost like there's kind of a split. I mean, you know better than I do. There are black churches and there are white churches. There's
True.
also mixed, right? But there are black churches
Yeah.
and there are white churches. And I was watching, this was really interesting. I was watching a video by a white pastor of a white congregation. And this is what he describes it as: a white congregation. You know, he acknowledges, hey, most of the people who come to who come to church
Right.
in my building, they're white, right? So he said, I'm at a white church. And I was watching something, and I'm watching this video of this white pastor talk about his congregation, and talking about only recently really did he really start, really feeling like, hey, I need to say something, right? And I'm seeing he's saying, this pastor here, this white pastor is saying, look, when I really started speaking up about racial injustice, I'm getting messages from my congregation saying, I'm leaving your congregation. I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah. So
How do you
well, listen, man. What if you think about what is practiced in a lot of our churches? It's a cultural Christianity that jives with patriotism and empire. It's not actual pure Christianity. It's, as long you got to hold up the flag, you got to hold up America, you got to hold up whiteness. Those things kind of like meld into, I mean, it's basically idolatry. Let's just call it what it is. It is not the pure grace-oriented Christianity that brings black and white, and yellow and red and all the other colors together and say we are equal at the table. We are special in God's eyes. We are not colorblind because God is triune. He's one, but he's three. We are one people, but many different colors on the spectrum, but we have respect and love for one another because each person is created in the image of God. And what you see practiced in our churches is, Constantinian, Western, imperial, capitalist version of Christianity, but not the authentic first century Christianity that came up under the revolutionary guys. Man, those people who were Christians before the 4th century were surface dwellers and people who weren't poor, who weren't rich. They were running from oppression, and then of course Constantine co-opts it, and it becomes a state religion. What we practice here, by and large, in most of our evangelical spaces, is a cultural Christianity that holds up the flag, holds up whiteness, holds up imperialists.
It's a strange, and I want to remind everybody once again that we're speaking with PT, who again is the pastor of Resurrection Houston, which is the church that George Floyd attended, and is also a personal friend of George Floyd. If you'd like to ask questions, please feel free to. We're on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you'd like. We'd love to get to those. But yeah, as you're talking, it's strange because those are really weird conversations, right? Because one would think that there would be some, okay, look, let's look at the whole person, right? But it doesn't seem to be happening. I wonder what kind of conversations you're having, right, with your peers, right? Because just to be real with it, the reality is a lot of racists go to church.
True.
A lot of probably
True.
most of them.
True.
You might say that.
True.
Right? And
listen,
this is a population which you may be more close to just by nature of your work, right? That you have more contact with, perhaps. And
yeah.
How are those conversations happening? What kind of conversations are you having conversations with leaders of primarily white congregations and saying, hey, what kind of conversations are y'all having in your church? What's that like?
So we have some of these conversations, and I've been part of these conversations for years. One of the things that I had to get comfortable with is saying to white pastors or Caucasian or European, whatever you want to call them, hey man, I know you guys have this philosophy that as long as you're not drinking, dancing, fornicating, man, you're good with God. But the elephant in the room is racism is a sin. It is the fault line in the foundation of these yet to be United States. And it's something that you personally, in your sphere of interest with your family, but you also got to be prophetic and speak to the people and say, yes, our forefathers and we have kept and perpetuated this racist system. In order for us to thrive, we need to repent of it. And yes, you're going to lose followers because, man, anytime you call out people's idols in front of them, they're going to have a reaction. What? I'm not racist. Sometimes I'll go into these meetings and say, hey, I've said some racist things. And so if I've said them, you've definitely not only said them, but you've been part of a system. I just kind of take the elephant in the room. We none of us are walking in perfection. And if we're really trying to bring the kingdom of God to bear here on the earth, we're going to have to deal with, at least in America, and I'm sure there's tribalism and imperialism all over the place, but at least in America, the fault line that is literally killing our country is racism. And, we got to get to it. And I tell them that.
How would those respond? What's the response like to that?
Man, it's funny. I think people are seeing how black folk and other folk are so upset now. And I think the cries are being heard, and they're like, okay, I get it now. We got to do something about this. We've been talking about this for years. We're not the first generation, but I think that people realize, okay, wait, black folk are tired, you know, Hispanic
Mm.
folk are tired. White people who are part of the struggle are also tired. We've got to do something about it. And even if we lose members, and you know what, it's a great time, because with COVID, no church has all its financial wherewithal, and we've all had to like adapt to this new normal. It's a great time to go ahead and say, man, we cleaning house, y'all. Racism is a sin. Y'all won't come. If y'all want to repent, come on back. If y'all don't, I get it. I understand it. No one was tied in anyway. You know, man, it's one of those times where whatever was holding you back from saying what you needed to say, times are so uncertain that you've got an opportunity as a white evangelical pastor to say racism is a sin, institutional racism is a sin, and we're not going to serve the empire. We're going to serve Jesus Christ.
Do you think that conversation, what you're talking about, right? Do you think the conversation within the white evangelical community, within those pastors, is going to happen where they will start speaking about racism specifically, saying we got to get rid of that? You think that's going to happen?
I think some of them are starting to do that. My
Mm.
prayer is that we need not just the ones who were close to the fire. We need the ones in Alabama and Mississippi and deep in the heart of Texas and, you know, Iowa, shoot, even in New York, man, to say, hey, look, I know that some of these people are going to leave. I know I'm going to get death threats. I know they're going to put, I know that they're going to put, I know that they're gonna put racist comments in my Instagram feed, but man, I've got to do what I've got to do to serve my God, serve my conscience, and call the nation to repentance from racism.
Mm. So, man, that's a big ask. That's a big ask.
We either got to do it, we either got to master that racism, master that sin of racism, or man, that thing's gonna master us. I don't think we can go back. It's either like MLK would say, chaos or community.
I mean, if I could have you encapsulate it, what is, speaking of you, you know these things, you've spent time in not only community, but this is something you've dedicated your life to. What should be the Christian response to the comment that, hey, this guy George Floyd, he committed a crime in the past, we should not be marching for him, this isn't a person worth celebrating? What is the Christian response to that?
I think the Christian response is one, to be confronted with the truth that all people were created in the image of God and should be afforded, and all people, whether they're black, whether they're gay, whether they're straight, whatever they are, should be accorded the dignity that's accorded to somebody that is imaging God. And because of that, whenever we see our brothers and sisters being hurt, or the law not being followed, or we see racism or systemic racism holding them down, we see that, we see them, we repent, we confess our own issues and our own struggles and the things that we probably do to perpetuate this thing, and we speak truth to power, making sure that folk hear our voice and understand that that's something we shouldn't do. And then also we do our part to dismantle those systems of oppression that are there. Christianity isn't quietistic pietism. It's a revolutionary religion that we ought to be practicing and not just performing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking of, the entire theme, which really runs through the belief, which is redemption. You know what I mean? That just seems like a big theme for me.
Yeah, there's hope in Jesus Christ. And what I tell people, man, there's grace at the table and there's mercy at the cup for all who would sit at the table and dine.
So let me back up a little bit if I could. This is I think maybe the last one I want to ask you because I understand that the band has a little bit more to play for us, but you're in a moment right now where you're living in the neighborhood, you're living in the area where all this is happening, right? And you're watching as the world watches you. What has it been like seeing all of that? And how do you think that's going to affect, how things are like in the community from now on?
Man, I think you're going to see, and probably have been seeing, full-throated activism, people seeking social justice, whether they're Christian or non-Christian, because I think our world is literally, man, at a breaking point. People will always ask, okay, so are the protests going to die? Man, I don't think anything's going to die. It's just going to intensify from here. And I think well-meaning people who see this train moving ought to get on the train and do what they can to ensure that America is the best America that it can be, that when we say we are equal before the law, that's a real thing. And so I just would encourage and just admonish, man, hey man, get on board, get on this train. Black Lives Matter, man, folk who are being oppressed here and all over the world, their lives matter. And I think that America, I know folk are gonna say America has come a long way, but we've also got to acknowledge that America has a long way to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, all right. You said something right there. Okay, I'm not going to keep us any longer from the music. So once again, I want to thank everybody who watched, who tuned in, who asked questions. Definitely thank you, PT. Really appreciate it. Resurrection Houston, right? Resurrection Houston, everybody. Michael Dixon, right, the vocalist, and definitely big shout out to Red Elephant Productions. And once again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We got one more song to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Whatever betide, God will take care of you. 'Cause beneath His wings of love abides, God will take care of you. Everybody say God will take care of you through every day and all the way. Oh, God will take care of you through every day and all the way. Yeah, He will take care of you. Oh, be not dismayed, whatever betide, God will take care of you. His wings of love abides, God will take care of you. Everybody say God will take care of you through every day and all the way. Oh, God will. He will take care of you through every day and all the way. Oh, God will take care of you through every day and all the way. Oh, God will. He will will take care of you through every day and all the way. God will, God will, God will take care of you. God will, God will, God will. Everybody say, God will, God will. Yes, He will. He will take care of you. Oh, yes, He will. Oh, take care of you. Hey. Yes, He will. Yeah. He will take care of you. He will supply my every need. Yeah. He will supply my every need. Yeah. God will. Yes, He will. One more time, say God will. He will take care of. He will take care of you. Hey. Everybody say God will. God will take care of you through every day and all the way. Oh, God will. He will take care of you through every day and all the way. God will take care of you. Oh, God will take care of you. No matter what it looks like, God will take care of you. Yes, He will. God will take care of you. Oh, God will take care of you. Yes, He will. Yes, He will. God will take care of you. No matter what it looks like, no matter how it feels, there's no problem too hard that He can't solve. Believe it, receive it, God will. Even though it don't look like what you believe, our God is faithful to perform what He promised. He will come through for you. Yeah. All things are working together for your good. Yes, it is. All things are working together for your good. Believe it and receive it. God will take care of you through every day and all the way. God will take care of you through every day. Oh, God will. God will take care of you.